Hi everyone, it's Dr. Hudgens. I'm sending you this video to share some feedback with you related to your work on your discussion boards this week. All of your discussion boards have been graded and the feedback is posted within the discussion board. So take the time to go back in and read the feedback that has been provided. From my perspective, it is so much more enjoyable to read work when I'm not having to correct a lot of APA or struggle through someone's writing. You all did a great job in general with your APA and your writing syntax. They flowed well. APA was pretty well executed. The discussion boards are a little bit more difficult to apply APA, so know that the level of rigor in APA for discussion boards, I don't look as hard with it. I'm really looking for in-text citations in your final reference list and basic general formatting versus the actual use of headers or page formatting. So make sure that you go in and take a look at that. There were two common errors that I saw, one of which was the use of embedding Bible verses in the body of a paragraph without giving it context and without connecting it to a sentence. And that means that you would put the entire verse simply writing it down without introducing it, and then without telling me why you think that verse is relevant to the body of work that you've shared. Make sure, just like you would write any other direct quote from any other author, that you give it the same format and the same context. The other error that I saw was proofreading. When I notice that you are inconsistently applying formatting or grammatical errors, the inconsistency tells me that you know the proper way to do something, but that you may just not have taken enough time to proofread and look for errors. So if you see feedback from me that says you've inconsistently applied the format for a header or the use of an article in-text citation, that means that you've done it right in one place, but you've made errors in another place. And I may actually say to you, make sure you're taking the time to proofread. I know that you guys are busy and that your lives are probably swirling around you, but it's so important that not only do you get the content correct, but that you take time to proofread your work so that it conveys the professionalism that you intend. But aside from those two general areas, everything else looked really good. Thinking back to your content, one of the things that I noticed many of you were writing about was the IOM report to Err is Human. And what I thought was interesting was that several of you talked about it, but the other piece of it is to share with you that there are reports now in 2016 that have gone back retrospectively for 15 years since the report was issued and have found that while we are collecting better data and more data, we're actually not any better at applying the data to action change or to changing the practice environment. So I think it's great to know that those reports are out there and that there were robust recommendations, but I want you to be wary in understanding that the reports were there, but our profession as nurses, we have not done a very good job of actualizing change with the information that we're gathering. Several of you talked about, the future changes that were coming. Many of you are very aware of the value-based healthcare that's coming and how that will affect healthcare. The other thing that came up was the accountable care organizations and what that will look like in the next century as we move forward, especially after the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. What is healthcare going to look like in 10 years than it does right now? And for many of us, many of you have been nurses as long as I have, we've seen huge changes in how we provide care. I remember learning in nursing school the good old-fashioned soap note, and we actually used a pen and a paper, and we had to draw a single line when we made a mistake and initial it above it, and no white out and no red ink. And I remember that. And here we are in 2016, and every one of our novice nurses are learning how to document their nursing care, most of them in an electronic medical record. So in just 20 years, healthcare has completely changed, and nursing has changed along with it. Big shout out to Sally, one of your classmates. She was the one that was most referenced in replies to the discussion board. So Sally, what you wrote garnered a lot of attention. Your peeps were very interested in it. So well done there. As a wrap up to the content, one of the things that we talked about a lot in your writing was the impact of change and how change impacted the healthcare organization and our own practices. Your classmate Angel Lynn did a beautiful job summarizing this from a Christian perspective. She wrote that as Christian leaders in healthcare, we have the advantage of biblical teaching to guide our practice, which lives in continual turmoil. Jeremiah 29:11 reminds Christians that God knows what prosperity He has planned, so relinquish fear of change and take hold of hope and future He offers. Moreover, Christians know that our God is unwavering, as He declares in Hebrews 13:8. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Christian leaders that keep these verses in mind will know that God has created environments where change is constant, but also provide guidance to live and teach amidst the change. I think that is such a beautiful way to remind us that even in what feels to be a chaotic work environment, when change is swirling around us, that we can be anchored by our faith, and we can be anchored that God's promise to be a provider and a protector and the best guide we'll have is there. I think Angel Lynn did a fabulous job sharing that. So I appreciate those efforts and those words. When we look towards next week, I will encourage you, you're going to be asked to do a PowerPoint. Invariably, I get questions about how long the PowerPoint should be. I would suggest that the PowerPoint be long enough to cover the content, but short enough to keep it interesting. It would be typically, about 10 slides covers it. I will encourage you that when you're done with your PowerPoint, that you ask yourself, would I be proud if Dr. Hudgens put this PowerPoint up and showed it to a room full of my peers? Would this be something from an aesthetic standpoint that would hold their interest? Does it look professional? There's some web information that helps guide PowerPoints if this really isn't your thing. Use the professional recommendations for how to craft a professional PowerPoint. So that information is out there. Please know that if you have questions, to touch base and let me know. I hope you guys are enjoying a beautiful day. It has finally stopped drizzling here in Roanoke and the sun is out. So I plan to go get some fresh air in just a few moments. As you move through the course, if you ever feel like you're just not sure, or you have questions about the instructions in an assignment, or you just need to anchor and just say, I'm really frustrated with this, I don't want you to hesitate to contact me. I know that online learning can feel kind of isolated and lonely, but you're not alone, and I am here to support your efforts. So don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know how I can support your efforts. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Take care.